Imagine a wedding day. Everything looks right. The venue is decorated perfectly, the music is soft, the guests are smiling. From the outside, it looks like the beginning of a happy life. Two people standing at the altar, hands held, promises exchanged. Everyone believes this is love. But look closer, not at the smile, at the eyes, because there's a specific kind of silence that lives inside someone who is about to marry a person they don't truly love. And it isn't peaceful, it's heavy. It's the silence of a heart being ignored, of a truth being buried, of a nervous system choosing safety over honesty. We're taught a simple story growing up. Love leads to marriage, marriage leads to happiness, and if you follow the steps correctly, everything will work out. But psychology tells a very different story. For many people, marriage isn't about love at all. It's about fear, it's about pressure, it's about survival. And here's the tragedy. From the outside, it looks like they succeeded. From the inside, it feels like they slowly disappeared. So why does this happen? Why do intelligent, self-aware people marry someone they don't love? And what happens to the mind when it has to live that decision every day? Let's talk about it. The first lie we're taught about marriage. One of the biggest myths society sells us is this: people marry for love. Historically, that's not true. For most of human history, marriage was not romantic. It was practical. A contract, a survival strategy, a way to secure safety, status, resources, and protection. Love was optional, sometimes even irrelevant. The idea that marriage should fulfill emotional, psychological, and romantic needs is actually very new. And while society has changed, the human nervous system hasn't caught up. Deep inside the brain, ancient survival instincts still run the show. And one of the strongest instincts is this: avoid being alone. Psychology has a name for this fear: anutopophobia, the fear of staying single. You may not know the word, but you've felt it. It shows up as a quiet countdown. By this age, you should be settled. By that age, you should have a partner. By now, you should have built a life that proves you didn't fall behind. And as time passes, that pressure gets louder. The brain stops asking, "What do I want?" and starts asking, "What's safe?" When fear rewrites your standards. At first, people have standards. They want connection, chemistry, emotional depth. But fear slowly edits that list. Chemistry becomes optional. Desire becomes negotiable. Loneliness becomes unbearable. So the questions change. Are they stable? Are they responsible? Do they want commitment? Will my family approve? Love turns into logic, and many people tell themselves this sentence: I may not love them deeply, but they're good enough. For someone who grew up emotionally neglected, chaotic, or unsafe, this makes sense. When you've lived in survival mode, peace feels more important than passion. Romance feels risky. Stability feels like relief. A partner doesn't feel exciting, they feel like shelter, and shelter can feel like love at first. Compatibility without desire. There's another trap that looks healthy on the surface. You meet someone compatible, same values, same goals, same future plans. You function well together. You don't fight much. Life feels predictable. From the outside, it looks ideal. But compatibility alone doesn't create emotional intimacy, and the mind starts negotiating. Love will grow with time. Passion fades anyway. This is what mature relationships look like. Sometimes love does grow, but sometimes it just stays flat. And that's when the internal conflict begins, because the decision made sense, but the body doesn't feel it. From the outside, it looks like maturity. From the inside, it feels like emotional exile. Attachment styles. Why familiar feels like love. Here's something most people never realize. Many people don't marry without love because they're shallow or desperate. They do it because their nervous system was trained early in life to misunderstand love. That training has a name: attachment. Your attachment style forms in childhood. It teaches your brain what love feels like, what safety feels like, what you have to do to keep connection. So as an adult, you don't choose what's healthy, you choose what feels familiar. For someone with anxious attachment, love feels uncertain. You have to earn it, chase it, prove yourself. So when they meet someone consistent and available, it feels like relief, not desire, relief. They're not thinking, do I want them? They're thinking, they won't abandon me. For someone with avoidant attachment, intimacy feels dangerous. Being seen feels suffocating. So they choose someone they don't fully love. A lukewarm connection feels safer than deep emotional closeness. They get companionship without vulnerability. And then there's trauma. If you grew up in chaos, your brain learned to associate intensity with love. Drama feels exciting, anxiety feels like chemistry, stability feels boring. So when real, healthy love appears, it feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar can feel wrong. So you choose what feels controlled and call it love. The body knows before the mind does. Here's the truth. Settling rarely feels like settling. It feels like maturity. But the body knows. Here are the signs. Relief feels stronger than excitement. Touch feels obligatory. Affection feels forced. You hide parts of yourself, your humor, your fears, your deeper thoughts. The future looks stable on paper, but emotionally it feels gray. Life becomes logistics, bills, schedules, responsibilities. Connection fades, and sometimes you fantasize, not about another person, but about another version of you, the version that feels alive again. After the wedding, cognitive dissonance. Once the celebration ends, reality sets in, and the first battle isn't with your partner, it's with your own mind. Psychology calls this cognitive dissonance. You're holding two conflicting truths. I promised to love this person forever. I feel nothing when they touch me. That contradiction hurts. So the brain protects itself. You rationalize. Love isn't supposed to feel intense. Passion is immature. This is adulthood. For a while, the story works, but the body doesn't believe the story. The silence returns as numbness, as irritation, as a constant low-grade sadness. This is loneliness inside marriage, not being alone, but being unseen. How people cope. When emotional needs go unmet, people adapt. Some shut down emotionally. They lower expectations to zero, turn the marriage into a roommate arrangement. Some displace their need for connection. They pour everything into work, into achievement, into being useful. Some seek stimulation elsewhere, fantasy, emotional affairs, addiction, not because they're selfish, because they're starving. Why people stay? From the outside, leaving looks simple, but psychologically, leaving is terrifying because leaving means admitting the truth. It means grieving the life you imagined, the time you invested, the identity you built. The brain plays a cruel trick. I've already put so much into this. This is the sunk cost fallacy. Then comes shame, quiet shame. The shame of feeling ungrateful, the shame of breaking vows, the shame of being the one who failed, and then the most powerful sentence of all, I'm staying for the kids. Stability matters, but children don't learn from words. They learn from emotional atmosphere. They learn what love feels like, and emotional coldness gets passed down. The two real paths forward. Eventually, every loveless marriage reaches a crossroads. There are only two real paths. The first is rebuilding. If there is respect, if there is safety, if there is goodwill, love can sometimes be relearned through honesty, through emotional intimacy, through help. The second path is leaving with dignity, not impulsively, not explosively, but honestly, because life is too short to disappear quietly. It's better to be alone and authentic than together and invisible. If this video made you feel seen, you're not broken, you're human. Subscribe for more psychology that tells the truth, and comment below.